Hello friend, and welcome to my channel. I am Melissa Joy, and I am here to take a peek at the energies going on around you, going on around me, going on around us. Now you might wonder, why are all these sitting out? And I'm telling you. So I cleaned everything up from the it's up to you reading, and cleaned up the deck, shuffled them up, and then the spill came out, and they're like, leave it there. This is the next 7 days, and this is the 7 days of the week. And I'm like, okay, fine. And these other ones spread themselves out as well, and they're like, leave this, put this here, put this there, and leave it. And so I went out to watch the sunset and to go out for a walk along the beach. And as I was wrapping it up and getting ready to head to the car, I heard them bring back about the bad moon. And that's not here to scare you. I mean, that's the thing, is when things feel off, they feel sizzly, they might feel bumpy or wiggly, that we can get a little unnerved and maybe anxious and concerned and stuff like that. So what it is this is coming in ahead of time to let you know, so that way it'll get your thinker turned on, your spirit, your soul guide, your GPS turned on, so as you feel these different things coming on, you're going to be more present of mind. Okay, so they're talking about that bad moon. How do I know? This is the Mars and the moon. They're going to be sitting right there together, okay, in Gemini as the moon becomes full, which is no big deal to me because I have the moon and Mars right beside each other in Taurus. So this kind of intensity, I'm like, okay, it kind of gets me percolating, where other people, it might get them frustrated, sizzling, or boiling. So maybe that's why they brought the message to me. And the thing to know about this is, you don't have to go to school, you don't have to remember this or even understand it, but it's here for the soul searching if you want to know. Okay, so us going into this Gemini full moon, they showed me the moon like it was going to barf its brain. And I'm like, okay, what is that about? And they said, do you remember the last node set that we were in? Well, the 18 months prior to January 2022, which it was 222 at that time, interesting, that was the Gemini North Node and Sagittarius South Node. And so that last bit of stuff caught in the head of Gemini is going to kind of belch and burp to relieve itself. Now, I thought, well, that's interesting. Is that what y'all are talking about with the bad moon? And they're like, well, sort of. It depends upon the person. There are those who've sown to the nature of where they want to go and how they want things to be, despite the odds, despite the circumstances. And then there are those who've caved in, let it fold in on top of them. And they said, just because the circumstance going on around the person doesn't determine how this is going to go. And they're saying, 0303 for who wants to know, they're saying when these things are laid out before them, everyone's being given the choice of life or death. And I don't mean living or dying, which every moment we actually are, because our decisions are either moving us more into who we are and our truth, or we're cutting our truth off and separating it from ourselves and going, not me, not today, not this time. Okay, so what is interesting is the full moon is official on the 7th, but generally in my world, the energy comes in the day before. So that's why they're having this come out. Now, there are these different levels as I'm looking in through it, and these are kind of like the different people or avatars or scenarios or storylines going on right here. And this is the offering, okay? So they're talking about, either it could be like Metatron, that the insight and the things coming to you just make you hostile and flare up and being offensive or defensive. Either way, that's still playing the game, right? Because it requires one in order to have the other. And in the middle is the door to romance, being open to love. And it's a 3-3. We have the creativity here, okay? So that's up to you, but look at all these layers. You're within a house, you're within a cupboard or a closet or a wardrobe, and then inside there is a cage, and then inside there is a key, a heart with a key lock, okay? So that's some pretty deep, intense stuff. So it's basically whatever you feel in the depths of your soul is what is about to come forward in this moon, okay? It's just gonna burp or bleh or whatever. It's gonna come right on up. And it's either choosing this to be hostile with what you see, hear, know, and feel, and continue to be offended or frustrated by what people say, or maybe you haven't been and you're about to feel triggered for something like that. Well, the moon is here to say, hey, just take it all in stride and take this into consideration. when it begins to come, just take it into consideration and being considerate and think, how do I feel right now? And it might be, I feel disturbed, I feel annoyed, I feel like I want to change things. And then you go, how do I really feel? Remember these layers of penetration here? Okay, look, it's looking a lot like this queen. It's just making me think of her skirt here, her outfit, okay? So we're getting all topsy-turvy, aren't we? But taking that moment to consider, like, how do I feel? Where am I at now? How is this going? That's a lot of stuff going on that can make you lose sight of where you're at and lose your head, okay? But on this side, as you can see, and as you can see better when I hold it up, we have man holding a heart. So this is more about active love coming on in and feeling loved and choosing to feel loved and choosing to see with those eyes. 555, whoever wants to know about the manifesting change, is just changing your mind, just like you change your clothes. Okay, if it might have been your favorite outfit, but if dirt got on it and you're about to go somewhere else and you don't want to go with the dirt on your clothes, then instead of going, I wish I hadn't gotten dirty, they're talking about just changing your clothes. Change your mind like that without all the lip service. How do I know? Because the silence's golden card has continued to show up, and that's what they were talking about with this moon. How did they say it? What did they say? Not time to see what you say, which it is. Oh, speak now or forever hold your peace. Now, that's the choice that's coming in here. To choose the hostility, the resistance, the frustration, the thinking that you know what others are thinking, and all that mental activity and consumption of your raw, pure, perfect, natural energy. Or it's simply taking that moment to go deeper and consider within yourself, what does this mean to me now? How is this really making me feel? What do I want to do about it? And some of it might be, well, you remember all the different things you've tried. It keeps going that way. That's not working. And so you might think that to yourself, right? And take a moment to go, okay, well, then I honestly don't know how to change this, is what it could be. And so when I used to tell my kids growing up, I said, when you don't know, don't go. When you do not know, that's a time to hold it, right? That's a time to wait. And that's what that silence is talking about here. But I love it. We've got the 3-3, we've got the 40, we've got the 11, we got 45, we got all these divine numbers coming on in, where this is choosing to get on your own side, on your own team, all right? So let's look through these different energies down here. Some of you, it might be that you've been asleep for a while, and I don't mean just sleeping. Maybe your heart fell asleep because you're like tired of waiting. You've grown weary of waiting. And in the meanwhile, you just moved on into normalcy and you're functioning like normal, or what could be considered normal, like a robot, right? No, that this part of you still seeks and longs to be awakened. Okay, then there are those that there were all these promises of love. Can you see that? And having been waiting, very clear about that, having been waiting for quite some time, you go into this deep state of meditation, and going there, you begin to connect and bring yourself back together, make yourself whole, and realize that, you know, I don't know about all these promises, but I know what I feel, and I can't continue to feel that pain, suffering, and separation. So you begin to bring yourself together. You begin to become your own parents. That's the merging and the morphing of the self or some into their mastery. And that is the key that opens the CHI, your energy, your family line energy, maybe your Jing even. And then there are those that is the dreaming. So it's two different worlds, having this dream of this grandeur and this greatness, knowing that is what is inside of you, knowing that that is where you're moving towards, but things drew a line and put a halt to it for some time. And that created quite a heavy weight and a burden on you, maybe some feelings of oppression, maybe some feelings of depression, and wondering what to do about it. But remember, when you don't know, you don't go, okay? And the neat thing about that is over here is Archangel Metatron, bringing in the systems, the numbers, and the understanding, the cycles and the aha moments, like it all just finally falls into place, and the bell rings and the door opens up and it makes sense. Okay, now we have these over here is pining after lost love, seeking for love to be reciprocated, but things seem to only be going one way in this one-way street, and already preparing for death mostly, okay? You just got one foot out of the grave, and for some of you, that could be you personally, like choosing to live so conservatively, so in fear of like, well, I don't know how that's going to go, so I'm just not going to do it. I don't know how that's going to go. Well, that's different than the not knowing. That's this fear piping up, wanting to know how it's going to go. So it's disturbing your feelings. There's a disturbance in the force, which that means there's a disturbance in the fourth, the 4D, where your spirit and your breath comes in. That's why there's this massive move of all these birds of flight going on around there. The message around your mind, which you're saying heavily, the mess around your mind, is going ahead and thinking with a death mind. Already is starting to feel those sensations, like conjuring up an earthquake that isn't there, feeling the tremors and the trembling of transformation. All right. And so which way do you want to transform? Do you want to move on into that death? Do you want to bring these things to ending by continuing to believe from the beginning that they are coming to an end? So you foreshorten the journey and take all the joy out of it, and especially the living and the experience. Well, that's for you to decide. And then there's this one. It is quite interesting because which reading is that? Maybe Pisces or Aquarius, but it's talking about the sun still holding a scar. That is what is going on here in conjuring from that place, intentionalizing from that place, intending from that place, taking insight from that place. So it's kind of like stained glass windows. They're beautiful and all those colors come through, but wherever all the leading is that holds it all together, it creates a separation in order to allow them to come back together, okay? So it's interesting here that there's still things that are unknown. And when you're trying to make it happen, to force it to happen, to make it come together, it's not operating in your nature, nor is it being true to yourself, okay? So giving your sun time to heal, time to return and reciprocate that energy to yourself. It's almost like these two are long lost lovers, you know, or soulmates or best friends. Oh, look at that. Isn't that a trip? It's like she's a blur halfway between his world, and he's pining and longing, wondering how he could bring love back into being. Ooh, he's showing up kind of like Batman. Ooh, you got a superhero friend. You are wondering and missing and longing that part of yourself that was so magnificent, so capable, that you kind of trashed rather than treasured. That maybe you went along to go along and didn't realize that you were betraying yourself in it, because other people betray themselves, and it just seems to be a regret that they wake up and brush off in the morning, but yours became physical, it became real, it became damaging, and there was no way to do away and pretend those consequences had not occurred. That's deep right here. This is the healer stone right here. So we're going to get into the Orion Tarot for this one, okay? Now, all of us can be any of these. All of us can be any of these. And so we have Chiron and Ophiuchus showing up, the healer and the healed, all at the same time. Okay, so it should be 4 cards. No, we've got 1 extra, and then there's more still trying to jump. 10 of Wands and the Temperance. Like holding down the fort, but you're storing up these grudges against yourself, and that just takes one little snafu, and it's ready to go up in a blaze, okay? So some of you might be at your wit's end. You might be tolerating, and you're not here to tolerate, because toleration means agreeing and putting up with things that you don't agree with, which puts you in conflict with yourself. Now, the irony is if you look at the word nice, its origins come from something which means that it's in conflict with each other. Why are you lying to yourself in order to get along? Okay, so there's a bit of some conscious connection with yourself. There's a bit of like a come to Jesus meeting, or what they call it, self-realization, whatever it is. And to be honest with yourself, the hardest part about all that is simply making the decision to do that. Okay, friend? So we're going to set these on back because you were calling in 4 cards, and I see them right here. So this one's wanting to take, okay, you have the Empress right next to you, which makes you restore your psychic power, because this is an impact on the eyes. Maybe having seen too much horrific stuff, things that broke your heart. So therefore you let it break your mind and you let it break you. And you've been broken down and run down, feeling in your soul and in your spirit, leaking like a gap, even though outwardly no one else perceives anything to be wrong. There's something that you're expressing in yourself to show the level of grief that you are going to. But what's wild is your grief is not one of water, it is one of fire. And it's diminishing your passion for life and therefore your life force, okay? So your sun is shrinking and they're wanting it to get back up to full measure. And that's why the Empress is here. And I love it. Empress is putting her magic over this. And she's like, this moon's going to be magnificent for you. Taking it from that blood moon and turning it to a strawberry moon. Taking it from something that was painful into something that is sweet. Thank you, Empress. And now this was the card nudging up, trying to make its way towards a cornucopia. And snuff this out a bit. Let's see what's there. The Six of Swords. Okay. So it's moving to better waters. And this moving is actually removing the things that prey upon your mind. That when they come knocking on the door of your mind, you simply say, no, go away. And the neat thing is you don't have to stand there and wait until it goes away. You just don't open the door and you go on about your business of what you were doing, right? And that you don't fall for those tricks anymore. That you, let's look at what's over here. You tune into your own power. These things are trying to finger and needle into your mind. They're saying crawl into your cranium. And just like if you felt a bug in the middle of the night trying to crawl in your ear, you'd be smacking yourself. I live down the south, okay, y'all, and mosquitoes try and find their way into the house when the weather's quite warm. And you'll keep doors and windows shut and whatever, and they'll just occasionally be that random one that gets in. So you'll be wake up in the middle of the night hearing, and it's incredibly loud when you're sleeping. And then you feel it on you and you just smack yourself. And you don't mean to, but it's just a natural reaction is what is going on. So that's kind of what is going on here. But coming up into the power in your mind, okay? And let's see what's coming along with this. The Four of Swords and the Two of Swords. Oh, well, that's interesting because when you break it down into its components, this is where you begin to have effect, okay? And that's where the traction of the healing comes in. The medicine goes down and it makes the most delightful way. It's going to make the path for you, but not the Six of Swords. It's too much at one time, okay? So you just, instead of trying to go and conquer it, when it shows up at your door, because these things do, and you could think you'd go out and chase them down, but that's kind of squanderous anyway. So just move on living your present life, and as these things present themselves, tackle it when it comes. And you just be like, no, I don't think that way anymore, or no, that energy doesn't live here anymore. I don't entertain doubting anymore. And it might be squeezing and trying to finger into your ear or whatever, and you'll be like, no, and that might be enough. And then sometimes you might need to assert yourself, like, oh, I know good things are coming my way. I know I now see the light of day. I'm not buying into those mindsets anymore. And you might just leave it at that, okay? But it's breaking it down into the small bites, taking it slow and easy. Slow and easy. And what I like about this Two of Swords is the bait is one that stands on its own. It's not seeking advice or opinions from anyone else. It's really doing its own personal soul searching here, okay? And I see why. Because, see, it's no more of this. So you're not wanting to repeat it. And that's why you're willing to do it in the small steps so that you reach the everlasting state, where you get to that place where your sun shines like this. It shines cornucopiously. It's copious. It's beautiful. It is abundant. It is divine. And it penetrates even the deepest of forests with juicy delights and magic. And more than mystery, this is like mystical. It's the things we didn't know we could believe to be true coming true right before your very eyes. You're like, I didn't even know to think of that. I didn't even know to dream of that. And a lot of it can even show up as common sense because these are earthly fruits, right? Out in a place where you might find some of these things and you're like, okay, it's just going to seem maybe a little common, but slightly uncommon at the same time, all right? Now, let's look at these other ones sitting here. These are really moving that man holding a heart, trying to move him off the deck, and I'm not sure why. So I want to look here and see what is going on. One is breaking down in time. It's literally like time for a change. I can't take it anymore, yet you're still balled up, holed up, haven't stretched out to see any new way, any new possibility. But life has risen up to meet you, but you've just been sort of stuck in this state of what do I do? So this is a lot of grandeur, friend. The interesting thing here is you're incredibly talented and gifted, and you have seen things that you're not even recognizing as worth or value, because the green magic is here and the gold magic is here. It is the ultimate alchemy. It is the divine mastery. And you're coming apart at the seams trying to understand what to even do with it. And that is the conflict that you're facing here. So you're just stuck in suspense, not knowing 2020 what to do in the last couple of years. And you're like, how do I move on? How do I move forward? How do I take this and use it as a benefit? Because right now it feels like it has torn me apart, like it has taken everything in the world from me, and I don't know what to do. Okay, some of you, it might have been the whole last 10 years. The last 10 years might have sucked you like a vacuum, or like when you go to the dentist, that thing that they get that almost pulls the breath out of your chest. It's like, and you're thinking, get that out of my face, get it out of my mouth. And that's kind of what you're like, get this out of my life. And you've been wanting to actually escape your own life. So this is some really hardcore escapism going on here. And like trying to disappear inside of yourself, like to a dot, like a wisp, gone. Okay, vacating your body, checking out on this world. So, and it's coming in with the gesture of thinking that there's certain roles to play, and this is obvious in relationships, and taking away your power and diminishing it to a toy, like to entertain people. You know, like when people ask for it, you're like, fine, I'll be the little monkey and I'll do the whatever, okay. But somewhere inside that has created such sorrow, because you know that's not what you were created for. There's so much more to you, the power and the passion in your heart through which you try and communicate, through which Spirit is trying to communicate to you and through you into this world to give you understanding. What does all that mean? What does all that mean? We're going to get into the vault here. It means time to cut it out. Time to cut it out. Time to make the decision. And so it's not life or death. That's the thing here. There's nothing threatening or harmful here. It's just that feeling of not understanding the connection, of it seeming shallow and false and like other. Feeling other. That's what normal is feeling other, anything other than yourself. Getting into the muddy middle, and you're like, that's not where I want to be. I don't want to be muddling and meddling and midland. Ooh, the Ancient Ones and the Rainmaker. What is that spot? It's right within your reach. It's right within your sphere of influence. It's just a matter of, well, for one, the new moon is coming, just a matter of time, of a few weeks, of really giving time for some of this to sink in. It's not like all of a sudden you're going to miss the buzzer and you're gone, okay? Or these bad things are happening. These are brought here for your consideration so that we simply don't play into the rumblings and the rantings thinking, oh, I know how that is going to go, so I'm just going to shut down, I'm going to hold back, I'm going to check out, I'm going to check in, I'm going to cut it off, I'm going to second guess myself. None of those things, okay? This is this taking that when you begin to feel the ruffle or the ripple, that you take a moment, which for one, when we do this, this is tremendous power in these centers of our hands, and it creates a perfect circuit, and it begins to channel the magnetic resonance of our heart and connects our heart and our mind. So you could do this and take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth with a sigh, in through your nose again. And out through your mouth with a sigh. That just taking that moment, more than to pause and reflect, to pause and collect and to get yourself back together as opposed to the fragmentation, is a powerful shift for you here, friend. And I love that. This has to do with both of these cards, okay? So the ancient ones are coming in as guidance to help you. So when you meditate, when you pause and you connect, you pause and you collect, you might collect with that intention of, I have so much on my plate, where should I begin first? And then it might lead you to a particular subject or a topic or a thing. Like I love to draw, I do make jewelry, and I paint, and I craft, and I create, and I cook, and I do all these other things. So mine might be, where do I begin? And it might say cooking, and then I'll be like, okay, what do I want to make? Where do we begin there? So not just where do I begin, but when you get to that, where's the beginning of that? All right, take it that one step further, because that is actually like the prelude, the beginning of the beginning. All right, and then this rainmaker, I love that. Giving yourself permission to truly live, to embody, and to not be afraid of letting go of control, of thinking, okay, well, having control of this makes me feel safe, but it also makes you feel really small. And it's such a small stage you're on. Not just only are you small here, but the world has to shrink down to fit you too. And that doesn't sit well with your heart, and that has clogged it up. And as a matter of fact, it's like they have old keyholes that have this little piece that slides down over it. It's almost like that is slid down over the key slot in your heart, so that no one's even aware that there is a keyhole there, that there's a way in. It's made it like of armor. And they're saying that to begin to give your dreams power, to let the light come in, to celebrate the star that you are here. And that star has to do with this life has never been lived, of the initiation, kind of like the you only live once, the YOLO. And that's where some FOMO comes from, and all those O's. And we want some oh and ooh. Those are the kind of O's that we want as we begin to feel it. When was the last time you danced in the rain, if ever? I remember one night I was leaving a massage class when I was in school for that. And it had just been so bone deep. And I don't mean working on people. I mean just going to school at nighttime, and you're getting out of class at 10:30, and then you have a half-hour drive, and then you have all this information sitting in your head. And it's just kind of like being in that place that you don't exactly want to be, like this, right? And it just felt very limited. I felt, kind of like swallowed up in my clothes. And I go out and there's rain. And the way the lights are in that parking lot, I could just see the whole long line of the rain coming. And I thought, I got to my car and I put the umbrella in the car so that the inside of the umbrella wouldn't get wet. I know, things don't always, friends, they don't always make sense, do they? Okay? When they should make perfect sense, right? That's why the ancient ones are coming into here to help some of us. But I just stood there, and I stood there till I was drenched. And there were, how many, like 12, 13 classmates, and some had already gone, but there were still, the majority were left still in the classroom. And as they came out one by one, they began to stand in the rain too. Each of us in our own place, because it's a very large parking lot, right? But you just see all of us, the last people in school, going into the parking lot in the middle of the night and just standing there as the rain is falling. The rain is falling. And you begin to realize that you can shift your state anytime, sometimes by doing things that are out of the norm, but maybe are exactly, perfectly, precisely in your nature. It may not be something that you want to do all the time anyway. It might just be a little inkling or a little gesture coming about to have you try something a little different, just simply to shift your perspective and to shift that energy that you have been sitting in for some time, to begin to find out what you like and what you don't like, because it's not life or death, right? It's not hard. It's not that painful. It's not littered with regret. It's just a time to experience the power of a decision made for you, to taste and see what the world is like and what you like and what you can leave behind. Okay? Hey, I am so glad you stopped here. I sincerely hope and pray this gives you benefit and advantage into this moon season, because this moon season is going to be an extended one, probably going through to about January 27th, the effect of it going on here. And I really hope this serves you well, and that maybe you'll come back and visit it again if you start to have some of those rumblings, that you realize you can lay down, shut your eyes, and this can be a meditation as well, as the rain begins to fall and percolate through your system, and you your soul, your spirit, and your guides begin to decide how this applies to you and how it resonates with you and where it doesn't, okay? So wishing you your best life. You know, I love you. Bye, friend.